Let's talk about habits. We all know that habits are awesome and powerful and can help us reach our goals. But did you know that when you form a habit, you actually physically change your brain? In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at some of the science behind habit formation and use that foundation to walk you step by step through how to actually build a habit that will stick. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Let's get into it. If you're anything like me, you've probably experienced the excitement and motivation of deciding to start a new habit, followed by the disappointment of falling back into the old way of doing things. Have you ever declared a New Year's resolution to start regularly going to the gym? On January 1st, you begin your new daily workout routine at 5 a.m. before work, and everything is going great. Until a few weeks later, you feel too sore to go work out, or you feel like sleeping in, or the new season of your favorite show on Netflix just dropped and you need to binge watch it. Whatever the reason, by April, you've stopped going to the gym entirely and are back to your old sedentary habits. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. In fact, studies show that most gyms lose around 50% of their new members within the first 6 months. Gym owners only expect about 23% of people who buy memberships to use them consistently. And, unsurprisingly, most gyms experience a peak in new membership enrollment in January, followed by a steep decline over the rest of the year. Is the problem that people are lazy or that they don't really want to become more fit? Of course not. The reason that most people have trouble sticking with a new habit is that they rely on that initial surge of motivation that gets them started, but lack the systems and processes that will actually help to rewire their brain chemistry to stick with the new habit. You see, the main job of our brain is to keep us alive. Back when we lived in caves and could be killed by a saber-toothed tiger at any moment, our brains needed to be able to sort out all the stimuli it received in order to focus on the most important, attention-grabbing thing at that time. Namely, our brains needed to focus more on that saber-toothed tiger running right at us and less on how to move our legs back and forth to actually run away. Thus, we evolved the ability to form habits, which allow us to perform tasks without consciously thinking about them so that we can focus on other stimuli. The basal ganglia is the portion of the brain involved with habit formation. This area of the brain effectively allows us to chunk sets of behaviors and actions together so that when we experience a cue or stimulus, we then perform the chunked actions together without actively thinking about them. Think about the first time you learned to drive a car. You got behind the wheel, buckled your seatbelt, adjusted the mirrors, pressed down on the gas, accelerated until the speedometer achieved a certain speed, noticed a turn coming up, used your left hand to activate the turn signal, looked both ways, and completed your turn. Each of these actions were new to you at the time and required significant focus. You were probably exhausted at the end of your first driving lesson from the short period of intense focus. But now you're able to hop in your car and drive effortlessly to your destination, possibly while drinking a latte or sending a text message. Side note, don't do that. The act of driving takes barely any effort now. This is because your basal ganglia have chunked the actions associated with driving into a habit, which now requires less conscious effort so that your mind can focus on other things. If you never formed the habit of driving, and if you felt that surge of intense focus, stress, and subsequent exhaustion every time you got behind the wheel, you would probably be less inclined to use this as your primary form of transportation. In other words, the motivation to drive alone was not enough to get you to drive regularly. You needed to form the habit of driving to make it a normal daily task. This same logic holds true when we want to form a new habit, like working out regularly. We may feel the initial surge of motivation to adopt this new healthy lifestyle, but motivation can only get us so far. In order to stick with a new habit, we need to help our basal ganglia adapt to the new activity so that it requires minimal mental energy to maintain. In other words, your smart, motivated self needs to design a system for the new habit so that your dumb, unmotivated future self will be able to keep doing the habit even when you don't feel like it. Here are a few things that your smart, motivated self can do to ensure that your dumb, lazy future self will be able to keep it up when the motivation has worn off. The first thing you can do is get really clear on the cues or triggers for your new habit, as well as the old one. A while back, I wanted to get in the habit of working out and eating a healthy dinner in the evenings, but my existing habit was to order delivery and watch TV until bedtime. I took a good look at my existing habits and cues to figure out what was going on there and how I could potentially design a new cue for this new habit. I realized that after finishing work, I would collapse onto the couch and take a deep, relaxing breath. Next, I would pour myself a glass of wine and turn on the TV. This normally wouldn't be so bad, but I would inevitably pour myself another glass of wine then. After 2 glasses, I started craving heavy, salty food. And after 2 glasses of wine, I wasn't about to cook or drive anywhere, so I would open up DoorDash on my phone, and in about the time it took for another episode to finish and one more glass of wine, the food would be delivered right to my door. As much as I told myself I wanted to work out and eat a healthy dinner in the evenings, as soon as I plopped down on the couch after work, I began thinking about the glass of wine, the TV, and the delivered dinner. The cue for this habit had become sitting on the couch after work, and the habit included the wine, TV, and delivery. Okay, so now you've started to notice the cues for your existing habits. Now what? The next thing you can do is to arrange your life in such a way that your environment provides cues for the positive habit and stops providing cues for the negative habit. In other words, arrange your environment so it's easy to perform the actions that you want to do and difficult to perform the actions you want to avoid. In 2018, researchers from MIT found that when they provided lab rats with a stimulus, or a cue, their brain activity actually decreased while they performed a habit that they had been trained for, like running through a maze. This decrease in brain activity while performing a habit is similar to what we would think of as autopilot while we complete our own routines. In this way, we are not so different from rats, knowing that as soon as we encounter certain cues, we will most likely enter autopilot mode and move into our old existing habits. We can adjust our environments accordingly. For example, say you begin each morning by making yourself a cup of coffee, but you would like to switch to tea. Every morning you roll out of bed, barely conscious, and the first thing you do is walk downstairs and push the button on the coffee maker. Within minutes, you are treated to the delicious smell of coffee and that comforting warmth of the first sip. In this example, the cue for the habit might be getting out of bed in the morning, and the reward might be the nice smell of your first beverage and the feeling of that sip. The first few days of avoiding coffee and drinking a morning tea instead, you might be able to get by on willpower and motivation. But the first time you don't sleep as well as you'd like, or you feel a craving for coffee when you wake up in the morning, it will become more and more difficult to choose tea over coffee. And the point of habits is that they're supposed to be habitual, not painful. In order to change your environment to be more conducive to your new habit, we're going to implement a two-pronged attack. First, we'll make the old habit difficult or inconvenient, and then we'll make the new one fun and easy. First, making the old one more difficult. Knowing that your current habit is to wake up, come downstairs, and start the coffee maker, we can disrupt that cue so that the old habit routine is unable to begin. In our example, maybe you can stop keeping coffee in the house, unplug the coffee maker, and relocate it to the garage. Sometimes you need to get creative in order to break these habits. Now, if you really want a morning cup of coffee, you'll need to go out in the cold to bring in the coffee maker and perhaps also drive to the store to actually purchase more coffee. At this point, your morning coffee habit routine will certainly be disrupted. Concurrently, we can make the new habit easy. In our new tea drinking habit example, maybe you now purchase a nice electric tea kettle to warm the water and invest in a few types of delicious tea bags. Now, you can put your shiny electric tea kettle in the same place where the coffee maker used to be, so that when you experience the cue of waking up in the morning and coming downstairs, you can still go to that same spot in the kitchen, push one button just like before, and within minutes, the smell of your morning beverage and that delicious first warm sip. You get to go through the same motions as you previously did, but now tea has become easy to drink, while coffee will be a chore. By setting up this new system in your environment, you're planning now for when you're sleepy and don't feel like making the good choice of drinking tea. Knowing the formula now for arranging our lives for new habits, we can start to see opportunities to adjust our environments in support of our goals. If you want to start reading a book before bed every night, try keeping a book on your pillow for the next few weeks. If you always stop at the same coffee shop on your way to work in the morning, try taking a different route to work. If you want to work out at least twice a week, pay a personal trainer ahead of time for those days, so that both you and your wallet are on the hook to show up. If you want to go to bed earlier, try setting a bedtime alarm on your phone so you'll be alerted when it's time to go to sleep. And those are the main ideas I wanted to share with you today. First is to recognize the cues that are currently the triggers for your habit, and second, make strategic changes to these cues to help support the new habits you want to build. Over the next few days, I would encourage you to take a few minutes to actually write down what it is you'd like to achieve through habits and brainstorm how you can arrange your environment and create systems to give you the best chance of succeeding. And that's all I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this video and feel more empowered to strategically build your own new habits. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy this video I made about how to create systems instead of just setting goals. So definitely check that out here if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.